ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the True Beast Trainer. This is episode 9, and tonight we got on our resident guest, licensed veterinarian chiropractor, Dr.O. If this is your first time tuning in, make sure you hit that question mark at the bottom of the screen. Put your questions in there to help us answer all your questions. And if you're tuning in, make sure you tag a couple people and share this out. For those of y'all that don't know, I am Zach Valentine. We're going to get Stan in here. Team X Dog.
What is going on, Zachary?
What's up? What's up, my man?
Tonight is an exclusive night. Once a month, we bring in our resident holistic chiropractor / animal veterinarian. 30 years in the game. So this is your guy. Yeah, this is your guys' opportunity to be able to ask a licensed veterinarian, a 30-year licensed veterinarian, who's going to give you the honest truth, not that fucking veterinarian bullshit that you see in the public eye where they are either a hub of distribution for Hill Science, Nestle, or Mars, right? But an actual veterinarian, a veterinarian who is going to give you the real truth. So, awesome.
Yep. I just sent him an invite. Dr. O, how we doing tonight?
Did I cut Stan off?
I don't know. He was probably just rambling anyway. There wasn't no telling what he was saying.
I should sit back. All right. How's my sound?
You're good. You're good. I hear him. I think, is this dude frozen? He is frozen. Hold on. Let's get him back in here.
There he is.
We got to fix your
You bet.
sound, Doc.
I can hear him.
No, I can hear. Yeah. But we got to get it crispy for all the future shows for sure.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah. So we'll send you these. We'll actually order one of these rigs for you, and then a microphone. Okay. We'll send you a microphone.
I have to hook up on my phone.
I've
got a good rig for my computer, but I can't get on Instagram. So
yeah, it connects to your phone.
So tonight we want to talk about one of the topics for the night is work before the reward. A lot of people feel like they should get rewarded before the work, and it seems like that is a trend in the world nowadays when you think about it, right? Like everybody wants to get they don't want to do the work, but they want to get the reward. And when we think about it, when it comes to dogs, right, the more you make a dog work for its food, which is the reward, the more drive that the dog tends to have, right? Whether it's food drive, whether it's maybe a toy drive or affection drive. When it comes to finding out what type of drive a dog has, Doc, like, because I know you work with a bunch of different dogs, and I don't know, I've seen some different chiropractors online who, there's one really popular one. He's not here in the United States, but he tends to work with certain dogs, and some of them, they look pretty dangerous as far as, like, the dog's not quite sure of him, you know? And so when he pops the neck, the dog is like, some of them are really, like, happy to get adjusted, and some of them are just like,
what
I'm about
just
to
happened?
bite the shit out of you.
Yeah, what just happened? Yeah. But they don't speak, so their reaction is everything. Like,
what's your approach to a new dog?
Videos.
Yeah, so what's your approach to like a new dog or a new client?
Dog and the handler, and it depends on what the job is. So if I have, and most of the people that, like we did, Sabrina brought like, I don't know, 5 or 6 dogs out here one time, and
okay.
She said, this one you're going to have to muzzle. All right. I mean, and know when you going into it, whether your dog is going to bite people or not.
Yeah.
I've got and I've got trainers that they're like, "Don't worry, doc, I got you," and I know that I'm not going to get bit at their place. Now, if they say, "We're going
Sure.
to put a muzzle on this one," we're going to put a muzzle on this one, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's not because they hurt; it's because they don't understand, you know. And as far as I'm concerned, bite dogs are dogs that are trained for protection work are some of my best clients. I enjoy, I enjoy working on them
Why is
because
that?
they're trained to bite.
Okay.
The owner most of the time has control of them, and most bite work
Yeah.
dogs won't bite unless they're told to. They might growl at you,
Very
Yeah.
true.
they might make
Yeah.
a lot of noise, but they're not going to bite you unless they're told to, However, the couch potato dog that, oh, he's never bit anybody, don't worry, that's the dog that's
Yeah.
going to talk to you with his teeth. Because and it goes back to having a job. We say, okay, yeah, he never bites anybody. He never bothers anybody at home. What's he do at home? Well, what do you mean, what's he do?
Nothing.
Well, when does he eat? Oh, whenever he wants to. There's always food in his bowl. Okay. When does he
Yeah.
go out for, to go to the bathroom? Oh, we have a doggy door in. Okay. So
Yeah.
he doesn't talk to you and say, hey, I have to go out so he's not housebroken, really. Yeah.
Yeah. He just is a
And
free
he
dog.
does
Yeah.
whatever he wants whenever he wants to. And so now you put a leash on him and bring him to the chiropractor's office. He's already petrified because what's this leash on me? I never had a leash on me before, because I exercise in the backyard. What do you mean he exercises in the backyard? Well, we let him out there for 3 hours every day, and if he doesn't run around, it's his own fault. No. Exercise is, it can be running and it can be running off leash, but you have to make sure your dog is doing it. You know? Just because I put an X-Dog vest on my dog and weight it so that it's got appropriate weight on that weak leg doesn't mean he's out there running around and doing what he should be doing to develop those muscles. So
Sure. How much do you guys evaluate the dogs before you bring them in, or the clients before you bring them in? Like, I know, like with a lot of dog trainers, it's always an eval before they bring a dog on board. Is there a big evaluation situation as far as when it comes to bringing a client in?
To do 2 horses and 1 dog, because they had no money.
Why the horses?
Just like we talked about.
Yeah.
And that's a big.
They just don't have any job. They didn't know their job, and they weren't horses. So instead of moving away from pressure like a horse should, they moved into pressure. So you just can't put yourself in danger. And dogs, that was 1, and it was because the owner said, well, he'll bite you. So I said, okay, here's a muzzle, and they were like, well, I can't put this muzzle on. Well, I can't.
Yeah, muzzle training takes some time. Like, I don't think a lot of people don't understand that it takes some time to actually muzzle train a dog.
Well, yeah, especially when you've already got to the point where you can't control it to begin with, and it's already disobedient. It's just gonna, and then you're trying to put this thing around his mouth, is become fear, and then you already know once fear kicks in, he's probably more likely gonna bite.
There's a lot of fear-free clinics right now, but most of those clinics that just translates to drugs.
Let's go back to that. What do you mean by? Is that a marketing tool of a free fear clinic? Like, I never heard of that.
Fear-free clinic. So they're not going to force your dog to do anything it doesn't want to do. And
okay.
But if it's sedated, then it won't deny to anything, right?
We just get them.
That's crazy. I mean, that's like a psychological trick for the pet owner, in a sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
all right. A little woozy. He don't know what's going on.
which is
Little
contraindicated
woozy
as far as
vert.
I'm concerned, because with the chiropractic adjustment, because if you can't hold you won't be able to hold your adjustment after I adjust you if you're that loosey goosey,
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, we have a couple different products that we're about to launch that are focusing, or I would say that are designed to address maybe any type of issues around the atlas of the dog. Like, for example, we have the non-slip lead, which allows the owner or the handler to adjust or set the leash really high behind the ears to where it's closer to the atlas. And then we have the fit collar. But I really want to take a deeper dive into the importance of atlas health and see if you can give us a better perspective on,
you bet.
the importance of the atlas in a dog.
Um, so the atlas is a hole, just like this, There's a bone. It's
It's a
got a hole
hole?
in the middle of it. It's like this headset. All
Okay.
right? And every nerve in the body but two goes through that hole. Okay. The only ones that don't go through that are the optic nerve, so vision, and olfactory for smelling.
Okay.
Okay. But even the nerves that come out the atlas control the eyeball movement, they control eyelid movement, and they control, the ability to open the nostrils wide and smell better. So all senses are affected by the nerves that go through the hole. If we have a subluxation,
All right.
you can see my whole head in this hole, right? And I'm not going to change
Sure.
the size of it,
Barely.
but I'm going to move it. So that's a subluxation.
Yeah, it's starting.
And look
Yeah.
how much of my face is outside that thing now. Could be this way. See, this one's bad. Could be this way. Could be this way. All right.
How do you measure that though? Like, how do you diagnose that to where you know that it's off-centered?
Lateral flexion. So if the dog should be able to turn both ways, and if he can't turn evenly both ways, then I know that there's a problem on the side. He should be able to bring his nose to his chest, and he should be able to bring his nose straight out. I'm not talking about up and down, not down to the ground, and not up high with his head, not through the lower neck, but just at the back of the head. He should be able to go down, and he should be able to go up. All right? And then he shouldn't have a twist. So his eyes should be level on the horizon.
What would be like an instant indicator that the dog's atlas
Toes
is
dragging.
not off-center? I mean, it's off-center.
Hind limbs dragging.
Ah,
Interesting.
that's pretty prominent, in especially the bully community.
Anything in the back end. So let's go back to this circle again. The nerve that sits right here on the bottom is the nerve that controls the extensors of the hind legs. All right?
Okay.
So right here on the bottom. Edema, swelling, all that kind of stuff is affected by gravity. So if we have edema up here, I'm going to put a little piece of trash up here. If we have edema on the top of the cord, where's it going to go? To the bottom. Because gravity's taking everything down.
Yeah.
So the first nerve that's affected anytime we have a problem with this hole is the femoral nerve that affects the extensors in the back. So if I see a hind limb problem, I almost immediately know it's a neck problem. I bet.
Yeah, he's right though. I mean, not just with bullies though, but you do see it a lot in bullies. But that's a common thing, like with the dragging of the back feet instead of actually like picking them up in the gate. They kind of like waddle and just kind of drag you can hear their toenails
not a nice
scraping
twist
across the
thing,
floor. Yeah.
But a drag. And
yeah, not like
we also have that
yeah.
problem with older dogs have that problem issue, dragging their toes. So that's the first thing. First thing would be dragging the toes. The next thing would be atrophy. we start to see some muscle wasting in the hind end. Especially if it's one side versus both sides. There's only two things that cause what we call muscle atrophy or muscle shrinkage. That's lack of using the muscle, so you can't use the limb at all, or lack of nerve flow to the leg. If you have lack of use, you'll start to see problems in 7 weeks. If you have lack of nerve flow, you'll see problems in 7 days.
All right, so what are some of the things that you can diagnose as far as like what would be some of the solutions to fixing those issues?
By hand, just a manual adjustment to remove normal flow and get those vertebrae back in place. So the only thing that animal chiropractors should diagnose is vertebral subluxation. The only thing that an animal chiropractor should do is remove these vertebral subluxations so that the nervous system can work at 100%. Now, what conditions does that affect? Anything controlled by the nervous system. So almost any problem. Last week or two, I've probably had 7 new clients that have been to the veterinarian, spent $10,000 and are nowhere. They come in. I had one lady bring an old golden retriever in. She got up and she put the dog on the bale. I adjusted the dog. Dog got better, and she started crying because she'd spent 10 grand and the dog had never moved that good. Now I see her once a month. So, but.
So what do you think are some of the most common reasons for a dog's axis to get off centered that bad?
Those 3 things. So let's look at those 3 things. Thoughts. Stan's got a new baby in the house, right? I'm sure there's no stress for the dogs in that household. Okay. All right. Everybody's going back to work from COVID, right? So now all of a sudden, how many people got puppies during that thing, and they didn't have a breeder that said, make sure you put your puppy in a room by himself for as many hours as you're going to be gone at work when you go back to work. And those puppies are used to those people being there 24/7, and now all of a sudden they're gone. So how much trauma or thoughts is that? We think, oh, my dog doesn't have any stress. Well, he does. What happens if you're 15 minutes late getting home from work because there's a traffic jam?
Yeah, you're more than likely going to be cleaning up pee or poop or some anxiety, like they couldn't wait type situation.
Subluxation. And then toxins. I mean, we live in a toxic environment. And if you're feeding kibble, just even if you're feeding kibble, that says on the label, we use only good products. All right? When you cook those good products to 360 degrees to make it so that they don't rot for a year and a half, you turn good stuff into bad.
Yeah, there's no more nutritional value once you've cooked it that long.
And 6s and turn them into omega 6s and 9s. So now you've taken a non-inflammatory food and made it an inflammatory food. So that can cause it. And then the last one is trauma. And trauma can be as simple as jumping off the couch, sleeping wrong, leash control, bite work. Every time you have a new decoy, I just cringe, Oh, because new decoys don't understand, what they can do to that dog's neck. If my arm is okay, and I can hold it, but when that dog takes all 4 feet off the ground and he's flying through the air, if I move that arm at the last minute, the only thing that dog can do is rotate on his axis to change where he's going to bite. And you see pictures all the time. Instead of the dog biting like this, they're biting like this or biting like this, and it's just boom.
So So how do you protect or strengthen that area outside of just adjustments? Is there any preventatives
Well, yeah,
as far as the Atlas
like
goes?
using the X-Dog Fit collar is going to definitely help. There's all kinds of stretching exercises.
But why though? Why would the fit collar? Why would there be adding resistance?
Because
Why
you're
would
going to strengthen the
resistance help
muscles
that
around
area?
the neck. There's the paraspinal muscles up on top of the neck, and we know that there's more proprioception and more pain fibers in the proprioceptors in the upper cervical region, so the region closer to the neck, than in those same muscles that we call them multifidus, and the multifidus run from one cervical vertebra to the next, and they run all the way down the back. But the ones in the upper cervical region have a lot more proprioception and pain fibers. Proprioception says, hey, where am I at in space? And pain fibers, than those same muscles down near the butt.
So, with that being said, how much, because the leash and collar is such a common tool, right? Like, how much does that affect the Atlas as far as that goes?
Right. Well,
depending on the handler, right?
Like you would think. The other thing is, people always ask me, and I know X-Dog has a good one, but if everybody's got a pen, all right, so I need you to write this down. I'm going to give you the name. Yep, Zach, I'm going to give you the name of the best leash in the world. Are you ready? Yep.
The best leash. Hold on. Okay, so this is the best. This is, all right, here we go.
ED. IE.
Let me look this shit up. Hold on. OBED.
Obedience.
Son of a bitch.
He's saying train your damn dog and get it under control.
If you move,
you have me spelling this shit out.
So we can, if you have it up here, you're going to have Atlas subluxations. If you move it down here, you're going to have low neck subluxations. Low neck subluxations are exactly the same as whiplash. Whiplash causes problems. Put it in the middle, you're going to have middle neck subluxations.
All right, so Europe would disagree, right? Europe says we're going to discontinue the e-collar, which is an off-leash training method, and there's no pull or no like. So when it comes to e-collars, what's your thoughts on that then?
Well, any kind of
there's a
jerk
there,
is going to.
Yeah.
Well, e-collar is not a jerk, right? It's a communication. It's like a notification, right? Yeah.
Shock collar.
Well, what most purely positive people say is electrocutionary collars.
You know, I think any training
deathbed
aid
collars
can be used correctly. Any training aid can be used incorrectly. You know, if I buy an X,
sure.
X-Dog vest, yep.
X-Dog vest.
And put 75% of my dog's weight in the pockets with no warm-up period, no training period to get used to the vest.
And you're just going to fucking run, sprint, fetching, like,
Yeah, just all the muscles get pulled
or
at one
just
time.
fuck it, just put the resistance band on and just have them go out as far as they can and get whiplash back. That's even better.
Their weight in there. You know, there's not a dog around probably that's going to. I mean, if I want to work up to, I don't know, probably maybe a pulling dog might get up to that much, but that would take a long time and a lot of training to get up to that much.
They did a study in Europe where they took a group of beagles, and it was like 10 beagles, because they were trying to figure out if osteoarthritis or degenerative joint disease was linked back to genetics, or if it was linked to how you can say it, just workload, right? They did a study. I'll send you that study. It was a 10-year study where they put 130% of the dog's body weight on a treadmill and they ran. It's 75 minutes a day, the same pace. And what they realized is that the dogs who did that, they had no issues. It wasn't like a genetic. It wasn't an issue on workload, for example. So like there was no degenerative joint disease or osteoarthritis after the 10 years.
They didn't just put them on there 130% of their weight.
Yeah. I think like people always think, like I always tell people like, they're like, oh, the X-Dog vest is hard on joints. And I'm like, well, yeah, if like we had 0 reports. We had 1 report in the past 5 years where a guy is like, "Oh, I just borrowed my friend's vest," and I was like, "Was the vest loaded?" Like, yeah, it was like I just threw it on him and I played fetch and there was an injury issue, and I was like, "Well, yeah, because you don't have the vest and you just threw a fully loaded vest on the dog and you did fetch work."
Terrain has a big play in it too. Like you got to think if you're in
Hold on.
somebody's yard that's got holes,
Hold
or
on.
and the dogs.
That's huge. It doesn't play an issue. It is a massive. You hit the nail in the coffin there. Like when you talk about terrain, it is a big issue, Zach. Like it is
for
probably
sure.
the most.
Well, I know
you don't
for
have
sure
to have a
because
vest for that.
my
to be
front
an issue.
yard, like when my dogs go out in the front, I can't really throw the ball up there because there's spots in the yard where they're gonna have to dodge or weave or they're gonna hit a hole,
and they're not.
Yeah,
because
they're not
dogs and they got drives.
They're gonna be zoned in. Yeah, and if they do, it's at the last minute, and that's where you see the accident or the incident, and you can tell. Like I've watched my dogs pull a muscle from running and chasing the ball so hard, like they just don't stop. But you got to understand too, if your dog isn't regularly out there chasing a ball, you can't just expect it to go outside for the first time ever and run for 45 minutes and chase a ball. It's not going to work.
Well, and then you can't throw them on a cement because the cement's the only flat surface, and you got pad issues.
Well, if you start to get pad issues, then you know your dog is fatigued. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Pad issues is fatigue.
So like a dehydrated fatigue or just wore out.
Stamina. We see it even in dogs that are competitive dogs where they have a change for the weekend. So, and they come back. So, Zach, you went to a show last weekend, right? And you come back to see me and you go, man, the footing at that show was terrible. My dogs tore all the pads. And I'm like, okay. So how many dogs tore pads at that show? Just yours or everybody's? Well, if it was it was really bad footing, how many dogs ran on that footing? All of them. So how many dogs should have affected pads?
Yeah.
Oh, yep. But if it's just your dogs that had affected pads, it's because the dogs. All right. So the dog's swing phase, the leg goes out, and then it comes back.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes out, locks, and then it comes back and should hit right underneath the eyeball when it hits the ground. And so from physics standpoint, if the dog's going this way at 30 miles an hour and the foot's coming back this way at 38 miles an hour, it's going 0 when it hits the ground. And that's what the pads are for. They're a cushion mechanism, not a braking mechanism.
So they're really coming straight down.
Even though the dog's running fast,
like
the pad is still hitting straight down in a well-conditioned dog. But as the dog starts to get tired, this retraction phase goes away because that's the last part of the swing phase. And if the dog can't retract, it's going to hit out here someplace and it's going faster. It's going faster than 0, and that tears pads. So
that's super interesting.
Yeah, really. I mean, it makes sense. It's just like if we were to go to, like, we can walk normal every day for miles and miles and not have an issue. But if we start to do lunges and add weights to it and bend a certain way, like you start to notice the fatigue. And then it's like, once you get done with lunges, it's kind of hard to pick your feet up. You're like noodle. You're like,
and then
oh,
go
shit.
run a marathon.
It's hard to
and
walk.
You're not going to hit heel first. Because, you're going to be running flat-footed. And then
I run flat-footed anyway.
That's when you get wear and tear on your joints, is when they don't hit the ground right.
Yeah, Zach.
That's why I've been doing knees over toes. Interesting. Yep. So we're talking about the axis, the dog's neck turning certain ways, things. Would you say that a dog eating off the floor for a majority of his life would cause issues on the axis? Like instead of eating off a raised bowl, like just a bowl on the floor.
Dogs in the wild are going to eat on the ground. Okay.
I think we've had this discussion before. Yeah.
All right. So some people argue with you, Doc. That they say, well, if the dog eats off the ground, it's going to cause east-west in the dog.
So all the sphincters in your dog work are controlled at the same time. they all develop embryologically at the same time. So the sphincters in the dog's GI tract include the swallow at the back of your throat. They include there's this a muscle ring at the top of the stomach. There's one at the other end, where stuff comes out, and all those sphincters
The
work
outdoor,
together.
yeah.
And a lot of dogs, when dogs eat, because of the way they're hunters, they and they eat as a pack sometimes, but they have to be able to protect their food. So a dog that eats, here can see, right? A dog that eats here may have trouble seeing their food, and a lot of dogs will lay down and eat, and that's okay.
So is that a myth then? Like, would you say that it's just a myth that if a dog is eating off a bowl off the ground, that it could cause Easty Westy? You know what I mean? Like, that's a big.
Yeah, it's a very big.
Elevated dog bowls is a big deal right now.
Yeah, especially in the bully community. So it's kibble.
Told you, Zach.
So we don't even have any dog bowls at our house. We just here's your frozen patty, go eat it. And they wait in line. They come. Of course, we have a couple that are more eager to eat than the others, but they just get in line and they come and get their patty, and then they go eat. And
so
would you say duration though? Like duration, like for example, the dog is fed out of a bowl that's lowered on the ground. The duration of time of it being down there, because I can see like you give your dog a patty, the dog goes away, right, and it can just lay down and start eating. But when you're talking about a duration where the dog is constantly, trying to stay at this point,
so here's dogs shouldn't eat that long. Yeah.
So it's bullshit.
Not right.
Just say it. Just say it, Doc.
Right.
It's bullshit.
Debunked it. We debunked it.
We just debunked that shit.
I don't know how long your dogs take to eat, but from start to finish, from the time we go to the
not
deep
long
freeze
at all.
door, all right, till the time everything's gone.
Yeah.
And we're talking 6 dogs. We're talking 1, 2,
4.5
3, 4,
minutes.
5, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11. I think we feed 14 patties a feeding. So we feed 14 patties, and it's gone in less than 5 minutes. So we wouldn't.
So elevated dog bowl is bullshit when it comes to
I'm not,
effect
if
of
you
Easty
fed
West.
kibble in it all day, yeah, it might be a problem. Yeah. Elevated dog bowls are, but see, elevated dog bowls are they came out for one problem and one problem only, and that was for dogs that had myasthenia gravis. It's a neurological problem.
And how do you diagnose your dog to know if it has
biopsies and stuff?
So what you're saying is, based off Zach's theory, that the majority of the American bullies has
my
that.
Theory?
I'm just saying, Zach. I'm just saying, based off your theory.
It's something
because I hate Easty Westy, and so does Zach.
It's a very.
But
a lot of people in the community do. You should.
Because
it's not a correct dog.
Well, because they start out as a pup, they start out as they have tight feet, and then as they get older, they have that issue.
I do think it. I think it's lack of.
Say it. Just be honest.
I think it,
Mississippi Sea Wolves. Let's go.
It's an overfeeding, over protein thing. I think in the bully community, because
is there such thing as too much protein, Doc? Let's see, debunk that, because I feed fucking my dogs so much protein, but then they're like, kibble with too high protein is an issue. Let's talk about that. Right.
So I will. So
and be honest. Protein, you don't have to sugarcoat.
Right, versus 12% or 30% or 40%. Okay, that's what people look at. Oh my God, yes. I can't feed. So we actually feed about let's just say we feed 0.6 of a pound of protein per day. All right. But
I
how
feed like
many pounds
80%
do you feed?
protein.
I don't
Like
care.
literally.
80%
Yeah.
doesn't tell me anything.
Usually like 3% of the dog's weight. So,
Okay.
for example, if the dog is 100 pounds, there's 3 pounds, you're looking at like almost damn near well over 2 pounds of protein. And then
All right.
10% organ,
So
10%
you're going to
bone.
feed 2 pounds,
You know what I mean?
right, of protein per day.
Yes.
All right. Now, wait a minute.
But then when somebody
I
goes,
want to feed
all right,
10 pounds, okay, of a 30%
Jesus.
protein. Because that's not as hot.
Exactly. So that,
okay. But how many pounds of protein am I feeding?
like, well, what's 30% of 10 pounds is
Right.
3 pounds out of the
And
10,
so,
you know what I
that's
mean?
the important
Total.
thing. It's not the percentage. It's never the percentage. It's always.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that's just a fucking myth because it's like, hey, I feed a dog. Why do dogs who, for example, not to interrupt you, like who are fed raw, which is basically like an 80-10-10 in most cases, they feed supposedly a complete balanced raw. It's an 80-10-10, 80% protein, 10% organ, 10% bone. But then they feed 40% kibble, like a high protein, which is high, which is like 35 to 40%.
Okay.
The dogs get the
Because
runs.
it's too much shit
It's
in there,
hot.
not because it's hot. So let's do the math. We got to do the math, okay? Because you, first off, you feed freeze-dried or raw? That's 95%.
I feed raw. Yeah, like 100% moisture. Yeah.
All right. So 95% moisture.
Oh, yeah.
So if you feed, how many pounds do you feed? So give me
3%
of
their dog's body
weight. I
weight.
don't know how much your dog weighs.
So so for example, Bravado is 85 pounds, so I feed him approximately
2 pounds,
almost close to
of-
2 pounds
of
of food
meat
once a day.
product. Right. Mix.
Meat,
Okay.
yeah, mostly meat,
But
10% organ,
2
10% bone.
pounds, probably 90% of it's water. So you're only feeding 0.2 of a pound of dry ingredients. So 0.2.
Yeah, because when you talk about freeze dried, right? Like freeze dried, every 1 pound of freeze dried is 3 pounds of raw. So for example, if I take up 3 pounds of raw and I freeze dry, I'm going to get a pound of freeze dried.
2 pounds of meat, so you're feeding 0.2 pounds of product times 80 is 0.16.
Zach's
0.16
right
pounds
now.
of protein. All
I'm
right,
just listening.
that you're feeding. 0.16 pound of protein. All right,
Yeah.
0.16. Now, I'm going to feed a pound of dry food.
Kibble.
95%
All right.
dry matter. Let's just say we're going to feed
Or more.
1.05 pounds, so that we're feeding a pound of dry matter, and it's 30% protein. That's a whole lot less hot than what you're feeding, right? Because you're feeding 80% protein. I'm feeding 30% protein. But
my stool though is
my-
great, Doc.
But of my kibble at 30% protein, okay, I am feeding 0.3 pounds of protein per day, which is twice what you're feeding. So it's not about the percentage protein. You got to do the math. You have to figure out the dry matter. You have to figure out everything else. And if I feed a pound of kibble, how much carbohydrates are in there? There's 30% protein, but what's the other 70%?
How do you measure carbohydrates?
It's
because in
what's left
feed they don't
over.
measure
You know what's in there.
carbs.
There's a filler in there. Carbohydrates are cheap.
Yeah.
So if you look, they're going to tell you what the guaranteed sugars are. They're going to tell you what the protein is. They're going to tell you, and it doesn't add up to 100. So everything else is carbohydrates.
How come they don't measure that in
because
feed?
it's
you
just
think?
what's left. They just don't want to tell you.
Broke.
But it's not on the bag. Like they don't break it down on the bag though. It's either
That's the loophole. That's the loophole. That's how they get everybody, because a lot of people don't realize that the carbs is really what's creating a lot of the yeast infections and the issues, right? Because the dogs don't.
It causes all kinds of things. All that filler is what causes the loose stool. I can tell when a dog's been on raw food because the stool, you can go out and pick it up, and
So really, you would still want something with a high fat and a high protein, right? To lower the carb level is what you're saying. So if let's say you're feeding 30-20 or 30-20
is it kibble?
instead of having,
Is it kibble?
you would want the fat to,
I wouldn't even
yeah,
look
like,
at it. I'm
yeah. So
sorry.
you would,
I don't even look at kibble
yeah,
because it's
yeah,
not 30-20. I wouldn't even look at kibble.
You
If
loser.
you want to talk
yeah.
about diet with me, the only thing we can talk about is raw or freeze dried. Okay, that's it. Because and people all the time want
Yeah.
to know what supplements can I put my dog on because I can't afford raw or freeze dried. Well, you know what? When I get all the supplements lined up that you need to give your dog to take care of and make up for what he's not getting from the kibble, it'd be cheaper to feed him raw or freeze dried. Now, the problem that I see with
Yeah.
raw is when people make their own. I am not smart enough to
Mm.
make my own diet.
Hold on.
Yep.
You are
Yep.
a veterinarian for 30 years.
Nope.
You don't believe
It's
that you're
38
smart enough to
different
make.
ingredients that
No.
don't have to be on the 94%.
Hey, see if you can bring on Jason here. If you
94%
can.
of dogs,
I'm gonna bring him.
okay, that are on kibble are hypocalcemic. They have low blood calcium.
Okay, so go into more detail on that. What does that actually mean? Because like I can tell when like I can look at stool and tell that there's a calcium. There's a high. Like it turns white super fast
It
because
doesn't
there's
mean the
just too
dog's
much
using it.
calcium in it.
And just
Yeah.
because the blood calcium is normal doesn't mean there's enough calcium in his body, because there's any animal has cells that are specifically designed to put calcium into bone, and other ones that are specifically designed to take calcium out of bones so that the blood calcium is in the normal range all the time. Hair doesn't develop, muscles don't work right, nerves can't conduct right.
Well, I was talking to Zach earlier this week, and I told him, I was like, dude, like take some sea salt or some Himalayan salt or just Celtic salt and take it like a dab and put it on your tongue. Because like we constantly drink, like we drink gallons of water a day. Like literally, I drink a gallon of water a day, but I'm constantly pissing. And then when I did that, because I watched a few videos on some like really pretty interesting nutritionists, like pretty high level. They're like, add some Celtic salt to it. And what I realized is I wasn't urinating as much because I was hydrated more. The water was actually breaking the cell membrane, right? And so I was actually hydrated more and urinating less. And I was like, well, that probably works with dogs. So I tried it with my dogs because they feed raw and they constantly urinate because of the hydration. I started adding some Celtic salt to their diet, and I was like, oh, I noticed that they're not urinating as much.
The Celtic salt is electrolytes. So
what's the difference between Celtic salt and sea salt or Himalayan
They'll
salt?
have more electrolytes. And some people will say Celtic, and some people will say Himalayan, and some people say sea salt and are better. I don't really care. I think you just need to have non-iodized salt in your dog's diet. That's the biggest thing.
Told you,
I
Zach.
tried. I had way too much. I think Sam was like, "Whoa, bro."
Yeah. He's like, he had a tablespoon. I was like, you just need a crystal. Like, take 99% of that spoonful in your hand and just remove it.
But to be honest, I don't know if
invite Jason on here if you can. Like Jason, he's Jason Cochran. I know I want to bring somebody else on because I know they have some questions and stuff. I'll be right back.
Let's see. I sent him an invite. I don't know if they'll. Oh, there we go. Hey, what's going
Doing
on,
all right.
man?
How about you? Good.
No,
Good.
Good. How you been?
I was listening to that diet stuff. That's pretty good. I tried to do the raw diet with the dogs too, and oh my goodness, I lasted a month, and I was like, and I was still getting it wrong. Like I was doing things that like people were telling me to do, and like I get like 3 or 4, like
Mm-hmm.
the gentleman here, a vet, and they're like, "Well, put this in there, put this in there," and I'm like, 3 weeks later, I missed like 2 ingredients because I'm out of it, and I'm like, "Nah, I'm done."
Yeah. And then they don't react the
Right?
same.
Yeah.
You got
And
problems in
then
the yard.
I mean, I still do raw, but I do it from a company, and I add what is it, 90-10 hamburger, or I'll get something else on sale, that's raw, and put it in there. And I do put a little salt in there. I put a pinch, or I'll use like a little natural butter that has salt in it.
Yeah.
All right, so Stan, you missed it, man. He said that you recommended some raw recipe and you screwed him up and it didn't work right. So now he
Now my
said
dogs
that
are vegan,
yeah,
and
that's
they
what he
can spit
said. He said
flowers all day.
Yeah.
no, he said that basically
You
the
know
same
why
thing.
though? Here could be the issue. The issue could be because he is constantly running his dogs on the beach, and so they have access to seesaw all day. So maybe that could be the issue.
Spoiled. They're
Good
spoiled.
comeback.
So now, do you use both the wet beach and the dry beach
I
to your advantage?
actually, the running we run in the soft sand barefoot, and I use Stan's sled and the vest.
Okay.
We go pretty hard. That's the only way I can put my shepherd down. We don't do that, and then I go to work all day. He'll stick his head through the crate. Yeah.
Now, so also, when you do that at fatigue, all right, this is a study from the Russians. Remember back when the Russians were weightlifting on steroids before before that?
Yeah. I was gonna
Were they not like?
Yeah.
And they would do IV, okay, protein, at fatigue, and it like bypassed everything and went right into muscles. So
Okay.
feed, boom, immediately, it would increase muscle mass at fatigue. So give them like a meatball, meatball right at fatigue. And by the time you get home, it's too late. They're already it's got to be when insulin levels are out of the way.
So you're saying just have a little chunk of cut meat in a bag, and when they get back to the crates, just pop it in there?
Oh no! Before they get back to the crate.
I'm sorry, I meant the crates in my truck. I got crates in my truck.
Yeah, right before they get back to
yeah.
All right.
And put a little sugar cube in it because the glucose at that time will go right into glucagon and it will increase stamina.
I think that's why they put a lot of maltodextrin in a lot of the supplements because of that, right there. The glucose, adding the sugar. It's interesting.
Insulin at fatigue, insulin is down low.
So, like a friend of mine, Phil Heath. I don't know if you ever heard him. 8-time Mr. Olympia. Gummy bears and gummy worms during the workout, or like right after. Yeah. Like that's a big thing.
I do ultra runs, and I actually read several times just reading people's stuff that they would drink like one beer at a stop or at the end because the alcohol takes the calories right to your blood system.
Right.
Passes everything. Yeah. Not a six-pack, but
there's a lot of sugar in beer.
And it's all at fatigue because insulin's gone.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
So how do you measure? How do you know if your dog's fatigued?
Just quit. If you're really good, you can see those pads hit the ground. Remember? Because if he's not fatigued, those pads will hit right underneath his eyeball, and they'll be going really slow. They'll be going 0 when they hit the ground. Boom.
Jason, have you noticed any pad issues with your dogs?
I'm not hard on the concrete with them. Like they don't run. If we did concrete run or on the road, it's like 2 miles. Yeah. But we're mostly doing the beach. Speaking of fatigue, if we're out there working, if the tongue goes to the side and one ear falls, he's shot. He's shot. And he'll run goofy
I wonder
too.
how much
he'll be all, he's done. He's not paying attention. He'll just ignore me.
Doc, so Jason's going to be hunting lions, right, in Africa.
Or they're hunting me, but we're gonna be looking for people trying to get lions the wrong way.
What would be some of the key signs that he could see if a lion's fatigued? Would be the best time to execute him. Or that the lion's atlas is off.
Head
Like
tilt,
he needs
lack of same with everything. Dragging the back toes, you know.
Yeah.
So if you see the lion dragging the back toe,
I'll make
Jason,
sure to check that before I,
it's time to go. Yeah. If you're gonna jump
So you're like,
on
if
him,
I
wait
see
till you
that,
see the
if
toe
I
drag.
see that 60-foot lead from my dog start hauling ass the other way, I'll know what's up.
so you're going over there for predator, for poacher control.
Yeah, I'm gonna go over there and help. It's not a guaranteed thing, but we're working hard. We got to get our level 6 cert with a buddy in Canada of mine, Arsenal Canine. And if we do, that's pretty much going to give me the gateway to go. I'm already in talks with a company called WITA. It's a wildlife. I say it wrong every time. Wildlife Initiative Trust Africa Canine Unit. That's their full name on Instagram.
that's wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll put you when you get there. Let me know. We'll put you in touch with the rhino people over there. And they're big. Like they'll blindfold you. They'll blindfold you.
Yeah, rhinos are big.
When they take you to the one.
Okay.
Because they don't.
Well, I think Jason's really going over there for the
There you
blood
go.
diamonds because he sells
I'll
jewelry.
be coming back walking funny. And they're like, "What have you been doing?" "Oh, dog stuff."
They'll yeah, but they blindfold you to go to this one rhino preserve. They don't want you to know where it's at exactly.
Why is that?
Poachers.
You know,
you give the intel away, bro.
Accidentally, you know,
can't get the
you
rhinos.
text somebody where you're at, you know.
I guess that's why. I guess that's why I got the dog.
Yeah.
He will find the truck.
Last time
That's
I went to
one thing I like
Mississippi,
about
Zach
him.
did that to me for crawfish.
Yeah, you find the truck, that's okay, but you know, how do you get out of there if you don't know where you are? That's the big thing.
That's why I go to him. Find the truck, boy.
But yeah, I don't know if you were tuned in when Dr. O was talking about it, Jason, but he was explaining to us that a good sign of your dog's pads being messed up in any type of training situation is a very good sign of fatigue, because he says when a dog is at its full capacity, it won't destroy its pads because of the way of the science, the way its pads hit.
No,
he can explain it better, but I thought that maybe you would like to know that.
So when a dog's running, his leg goes forward, and then it has what's called a retraction phase, and it retracts, and it should hit right below his eyeball, and it will be going 0 miles per hour when it hits the ground. Okay.
So really, on a slow camera, it goes to a dead stop, even though he's moving.
Yep. And then it goes this way. All right. So if you, but if the dog is fatigued, then this retraction phase gets shortened up first. And so it hits the ground in front of the dog, and then that's what tears their pads.
Wow. Okay.
So
I know we got a few questions, Zach,
I
that we want
appreciate
to
that.
that are
That's
in the
pretty
question
cool.
box.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead.
What I'll have to do on that beach run is film the beginning of it, because it's a down and back, you know, and we're using the gear and all that. I'll have to film down and then on the way back.
Yep.
We don't do the sled the full way because he's getting used to it, but the first shot out of the gate, we did a mile, and then I unhooked it and hit it, and we still did our full thing. But he went for
You did
mile
a drag bag for a mile?
Holy and we had it tied to his collar because I don't have the right vest.
Yeah,
so
we gotta get you the right
I
vest.
looped it around both sides of the collar and threw his ball, and it was like smoke. I was like, all right, we're off.
So
we don't recommend that, everybody.
Sand, if you get tired sometime,
right?
Just go to the hard sand, the wet sand.
Yeah.
Okay.
It works different because the soft sand, there's no bounce. Like when you run on hard pavement, it's on your bony collar.
Yeah.
Right.
But it also, the hard collar, the hard pavement or hard surface pushes the leg back up.
Let me ask you this. One of the reasons I don't run on the hard here, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, is because of the angle. And I figured
kind of saying he's wrong. Kind of.
I just don't do it
Stop
on the
running a
ankle
hard
because I
T.
figured it'd be bad on their hips.
Well, if you go one way and then the other, it won't be.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do. It's a down and back. So, all right. Well, I will do it, and I'll get your info, and I'll film both ways.
Because it's the same on the soft sand. I mean, one leg is deeper than the other one.
Yeah, it's very uneven.
So it's still hard.
Yeah.
It's still hard on the hip.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I
send him
will.
some
It's easy. I
videos
mean,
of
they
that.
run right next to me. So,
I don't know if you know Dr.O, like they him and his wife have a chiropractic school. So
okay, I just started going to one
here.
here.
Oh, yeah?
I think it's been phenomenal, especially for
it?
my older dog.
Who is?
I mean, she's 9 years old. She
Who is
still
it?
wears these guys' vests, and she does that 6.5 miles.
Yeah.
It's the other one in the videos. I mean, I don't make her wear the vest every day because she is 9, but 3 days a week doing 6 miles.
Who's your animal chiropractor?
Yeah.
D'Amato.
Oh, yeah, I know him. Yeah, good buddy.
Okay. Yep.
Small community.
Yeah, he's
It's
right down the
small
street
world,
from me.
yeah.
Actually, that's where I get my raw diet. And then I was like, you know what? Let me try it. And it's all good.
It seems like the 5% of licensed veterinarians who do animal chiropractic offer raw diet.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's kind of interesting.
Holistic veterinarians are going to be recommending raw diet versus versus traditional veterinarians.
Well, the interesting thing is the other 95% of veterinarians, if they diagnose a dog with cancer, they're going to tell them to cook the food or raw diet. So it's like to address it. It's kind of interesting, right? Like I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's what one of the questions is. MJ Bully says, do you think feeding raw helps keep dogs in a leaner state? If so, what can you do to keep
I would say
healthy weight on?
I would say on a leaner state. Yeah. Portion and activity, right? Lifestyle.
Yeah.
Well, I just started. I mean, to answer that guy's question too, learning from you guys. When I first heard one of you guys' first podcasts on here before I was on, it was I think it was you, Stan. You said you feed your dog 6 days a week and fast a day. Now I started doing that a while back.
Yeah, I 6 days a week.
They don't necessarily, like I do it on a Sunday. So they eat Saturday night. They don't touch it on Sunday, and then they eat on Saturday. I don't see the difference of them wanting their food anymore. And we're super active on Sunday because I don't work. So
and they don't lose weight.
We're tracking and running.
Especially in the bully community. Yeah, in the bully community, they want to keep their dogs a little bit heavier, and the issue is with that is that it doesn't, like your dogs will adapt, their bodies will adapt. What I've noticed, like my dog has not lost any weight, but its phenotype is different. Like 85 pounds on kibble looks different than 85 pounds on raw.
Mine's
like he's
down
more muscular,
like a human would. Like you got a big guy that power lifts, and all of a sudden he starts running. Mana got heavier in the back end a little bit on the hips. And then he leaned out with the same portion and the same diet.
I think your dog Zach too look fucking phenomenal. Like they look different than most dogs, as far as like,
husky,
just based off your lifestyle.
People got to realize that husky's tall and skinny. She's got shepherd in her. She's only 60 pounds. Yeah. And he's 80 because he's all muscle. But she's lean. She's a lot leaner than people think. But she's on the same diet, and she's 9, and she doesn't. Sunday, she's like, whatever. Then Monday nights, all right, let's eat.
Yeah, my dogs will actually leave food in the bowl if I'm overfeeding them. So like that's how I've diagnosed it. Like
and
literally they'll leave food in the bowl.
If I overdid it
could
the
be
next time we track and do like cardio stuff, the real thing, they're lethargic. They're like, nah. It's like a person. Do you want to eat a steak and 4 potatoes and then go take off and run? No, they don't either.
Someone said, I told my vet I did that, and they shamed me. And then another person says, when I had Bowie's Echo Holter done in January, the vet tried to talk me out of raw feeding and using kibble.
All the time. And here's just because that's all they know.
Why?
Well, here's the other thing. What do they sell?
It's so.
That makes sense.
If I talk you into buying a $130,000 underwater treadmill to put in the factory, right? Or to not put in the factory, put in your waiting room right there, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
130
How many
grand.
dogs
Holy shit.
are you going to put on it?
Every dog I can possibly get my hands on to try to get my money back.
Charging admission, charging tickets, time limits.
Just to look at it.
You want to walk in here? We got
Zach
He's
wants to
putting
look
it
at
in
it.
the trailer
man,
and taking it to
man.
dog parks.
You back.
Yeah. I'm trying to get my fuck. Well, so where are you going with that, though? Like,
You're gonna
so
sell
what do you
what
mean?
have. You know, you wouldn't recommend an underwater treadmill because you would.
Why are so many veterinary clinics why are they distribution centers for Mars, Hill Science, or Nestle? Why is that? Why is there such a demand for that? Is it because
the company
create them, or like what?
Yeah, the company created. Oh, we're going to be veterinary only, and then they went out for veterinary only. We have a prescription diet. If you don't have a prescription, you can't get it. So and it's a way.
There's a big control over the prescription side.
I can show you guys that right here. I mean, anytime there's a problem, that's what I'm given.
Yep.
Yeah.
Canned water.
Hey, you know what?
Nice.
I held this up before when we were talking about something else.
Hey, pull up the nutritional facts on that. No. Yeah. All right, so here, this is a supplement. Go to the actual the product fact. Go to the product facts. I want to show people there's a product fact on a supplement, right? And I'm going to show you guys something right here. I'm going to do it live. So, okay, that's actually the guaranteed analysis because food is guaranteed analysis. Do you see the percentage on anything? Can you read any of the percentages on anything? So anything that falls under the food category is going to have a guaranteed analysis, and anything that falls in supplement category, or low dose of drug, is going to have product facts. Yeah. So what's the protein, moisture, crude fat, crude protein?
3.5%.
Super low. 3.5. So 55%, right? 3.5%. That's what I'm saying. So that's canned food, right? 3.5%.
78% moisture.
Yeah, it's pure water. That's why I try to pull. So it's basically if you took 3.5 ounces of chicken, let's say for example, and then you're going to fill it with 80% water. And so what that does to a dog's body when somebody has them on a canned food, what it does, it sends those receptors and says, hey, I'm full. But what are you full of? Empty calories. You're full of water. And so that's why a dog can't gain weight. And so I tell them, it's like, hey, just take a tablespoon of healthy fats, which is 130 calories, and it's a tablespoon. It's a tablespoon. It's probably got 10 times as much calories as that whole can of food. So if a dog is underweight, or a dog, like, for example, a lot of our working dogs, like our Mals and our border collies, are like, man, I'm having a hard time retaining weight. I say, get on a healthy fat source that has a boatload of calories, which is usually an animal product, right? Like beef tallow, chicken fat, duck fat.
You can eat a bag of Doritos for calories, or would you eat some red potatoes boiled with butter on?
Yeah. Yeah, and then when you look at the muscle building gains, you're going to see creatine or Creapure as the main ingredient. But when you look at that, so go ahead and pull that up. I'm going to show you guys something. I'm going to school y'all on something. There's probably 200. Yeah, there's 200 milligrams of creatine in there, right? Which is basically the active ingredient. But how many grams scoop is that?
I was looking at the other side. Yep.
It's at the top.
7 gram scoop.
Just turn around.
Right back. 200 milligrams. Yep.
7 gram scoop. So now you have 6.8 grams of what are the inactive ingredients, supposedly the inactive ingredients. This is where
vegetable fat, whey protein, and flaxseed.
So there you go. You got 2 sources of healthy fat and a high quality protein of supposedly the inactive ingredients. We hide them as flavoring agents. And so you have 200 milligrams of product that's going to build muscle It's going to retain water. It's going to give your dog's muscles leverage so your dog can work out for longer periods of time. And then we're going to give you 2 doses of healthy fat sources, which is going to give your dog energy, and a protein source to recover on building muscle. And so that's the difference between our supplements and a fucking canned food.
Dogs obviously have a good nose, and they obviously know when something's good, right?
Yes.
It doesn't matter what kind of food I feed them. They lick that stuff right off the food first.
Because fat lick it right equals off. It doesn't matter if I throw steak. There's a reason why ribeyes taste so fucking delicious. Off the top,
because I put the scoop. It's at the beginning, so I put it on there. They will lick around in the food, push it around, eat it, and then eat their food. Both of them.
Why do you think Zach puts coconut oil on his beard?
I'll be looking at that one day.
No, your wife does.
Oh,
yeah.
I thought you come out and said I do too.
But that's the whole thing is that I found loopholes on, because like when it comes to supplements, inactive ingredients are not supposed to play a nutritional value role. But when you base them with superfoods, it gives your product a competitive advantage. And so we don't cut any corners on that. And when you're talking about certain companies who are like at the highest level that are in Petco, PetSmart, Walmarts and stuff like that, if you go look at the inactive ingredients, you're going to see like shit like cornmeal, maltodextrin, shit that does, they're just looking for the cheapest ingredients to fill or pack or bind.
Oh yeah,
the product. And we don't do that shit.
I could read everything on here, but it does water, pork liver, whole grain, corn, chicken, and then it goes into a
Okay. Hold on. Go back to the ingredients. Go back to the first ingredients. Say the first ingredient.
The first ingredient was water. Pork liver.
Okay. Second ingredient.
Go ahead.
All right. So the pork liver is probably where the protein is coming from. I mean, there's only 3.5%.
Well, I'll read all of those.
Yeah.
Crude protein,
just enough.
3.5. Crude fat, 2%. I'm talking about percentages. Crude fiber, 5%, and then we went right into the moisture, 78%. That's it.
So basically, it's like if I was to do this, hey, give me $100, I'm going to give you $3.50 back in protein.
It's like taking a bowl of water and throwing a piece of bread.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, that's why I tell people it's better to just give your dog raw egg or some like an ounce of raw meat. You're going to get more out of that ounce of raw meat than you are that whole can of dog food.
Yeah, and I started, the price of eggs now have gone up. I started giving my dogs every once in a while quail eggs. Yeah, because they're smaller, you know?
Yeah.
Quail eggs. Yeah. No. Quail eggs are not that fucking cheap either. They're $5.99. Pretty pricey.
Yeah. Once a month, maybe once every 2 months. I don't really plan it. If they have them, I'll grab one once in a while. I mean, this last time it's been probably 4 months. I don't think about it, but when I see them, I grab them, but they love them. Yeah. But yeah, we're going on the second month, or I don't know. I get it from you guys. I think I'm either on 30-day order or 60-day order with your stuff. So, but it's definitely 2 months. This is my second container ever.
Yeah. Yeah, so you should see a significant difference in their energy levels or recovery levels.
We're still doing that.
Sure,
I mean, we're still doing that cardio that we're doing. And now that he's gotten to the level he is now tracking, our tracks are 2 and 3 miles now. You know, we're not doing out in the yard. Oh, go find the ball. No, we're going from like neighborhood to neighborhood.
Yeah,
you know?
Zach.
And we're still doing it. So, and then we're still playing 2-ball at the end for the reward. You know? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The work before the reward.
I do. It doesn't matter what I do with him. I take him out and have him find the ball. Like if he comes out with me, I'll hide it at the mailbox. It's just work reward, work reward, work reward.
So how often, Jason, do you get your dog? How often do you?
In the beginning, I did it every other month, and now Dr. O told me quarterly, unless I see a difference. So now
What do you think about that, Dr.O? Is that too much?
Not enough? I don't know. But we give people ways to find out, to know when their dog is out of alignment. And then we know that a subluxation causes irreparable damage in 7 days.
No.
So we have you check your dog's hips. We have you check your dog's lateral flexion. We have you check your dog up and down. Well,
the point I was trying to make is that I find that animal chiropractors are really honest. They don't over adjust your dog for no reason, right? Like, and so if someone like Jason, who's constantly working his dog, especially like in sand, where you're building those stabilizer muscles, you're conditioning those muscles, which are going to reduce pressure on those joints, ligaments, and tendons, which is going to add longevity to the health to joints, ligaments, and tendons. You're not going to need adjustment as much as if he probably just had his dog in his backyard searching for tennis balls.
And
Like
Dr. D'Amato
That's what
was
I
the
do.
one that told me not to come back. He's like, I actually, because Makira is the older one, she's actually the one that went twice every other month. And I just happened to bring Mana. And he's like, Mana doesn't have to see me for 90 days. And then like, call me and tell me what he's doing. So yeah, 100% honesty. He could have hit me up. Oh, come see me for the next 6 months every month. And I would have been like,
listen, I've been to chiropractors, personal chiropractors, where they x-rayed me, they diagnosed me, then they wanted to do this whole maintenance period for like, twice a week for fucking 4 months. And then, then I've had my friend who was a chiropractor who adjusts me once every few months.
No, he's and I felt good about it. You know what I mean? Like, he adjusted him and he's like, go do your thing. Unless you see a difference, I don't need to see you. And I was like, cool. And then just the way he's around the dogs. I mean, he was wrestling with them, and I could just, he's fine. Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. And just like I said, we just give you some exercises and you tell me when you need to come back.
Yeah, that was the thing. The way you were just talking about that, it sounds like I need to be more educated on it so I know when to go back, you know?
Hey, I think, Stan, don't you have some books there, Stan?
Yeah, I already gave them all out, Doc. I gave it to my best clients. Everybody who was on a subscription, who had like, I had like 10 people who had like a subscription.
Stan gave me like a coloring book with pop-up shit.
Yeah, that
I
was
read it every night, though. I love it.
Yeah, that wasn't it.
All right, so let me ask you this, Jason. So Nellie Watts said this, and
I'm here.
Dr. O doesn't believe in this. So raised bowls, they do not help with gulping of air while eating, which in turn helps prevent bloat. No question mark. So what about bloat?
Wait, I lost you. What was the beginning of that statement?
Raised food bowls. I've never
seen a dog bloat. Food bowls.
Oh. I've never seen a dog
like an elevated bowl
that got fed after exercise and that was on raw food.
Well, here. Okay, he wasn't on raw food, but 2 years ago, that same guy, Mana, I fed him a lot earlier in the day. In the middle of the night, I was on a trip in Oregon. I was getting ready to do an ultra marathon, and he started squealing. And I was like, dude, you got to go back to bed. We're in an RV. We're in a little RV. It's a tow behind. He starts squealing again. I finally got up, turned the light on. His belly was the size of a basketball. And this is after he'd been sleeping. I jerked him out of there. I ran up to my friend's house. They told me where the emergency vet is, and he actually had bloat. And, we saved his life. He's my tracking dog, but he got it later in bed. But he was on kibble. He was not on raw. Yep. That was when I was traveling.
Kibble. Kibble dogs bloat.
Yeah. He had to go to emergency surgery, and, I mean, they were fantastic. He got like 100 stitches. They had to cut open basically his whole inside. He's got a whole scar. He made it, but, he was on the kibble.
Yeah, kibble will do it. Here. That's what you need.
Ah.
Yeah, get that book, Jason.
Somebody, sure. I can't screenshot that or anything. Somebody texted title or something.
Yes, it's really a thing.
Oh, I got
Yes, it's really a thing,
here.
Jason.
It's called Yes, It's Really a Thing?
Yep.
Yep, it's a thing.
It's a thing. You didn't know it, but now you know. No one's half the battle. G.I. Joe.
Get it on
yes,
pop-up
color book.
Get it on Amazon. Get it on Amazon, or you can order it for me, whichever.
Cool.
So. I got it.
Yeah, reach out to them. Sorry, I thought somebody like this. Somebody's. Yeah, I send them out to all of my top clients.
Is get on raw food, get on freeze dried, and you won't have trouble with bloat.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. Like the whole, the whole okay, so here's the thing that me and Zach talk about all the time is like they talk about like the issues of grain-free diets with DCM, right, and the heart issues, and they're like, hey, I saw a report there was like 61 dogs reported last year, and I'm like 61 dogs, huh? That's interesting. How many dogs who were not on grain-free diet were diagnosed with cancer? And there's never no studies on that. There's never no studies on that. Non-grain-free, right?
No, I agree.
Because you're talking about there's probably going to be 1 million dogs plus, right? Because if you think about it, like over 50% of dogs are overweight or obese. Over 50% of the dogs, that are diagnosed as being overweight or obese are creating thriving environments for disease. But they never do any studies for that. But they use a scarcity mindset of going, hey, DCM. They rarely talk about bloat. Like I had a dog that I lost due to bloat, and that's when I learned about bloat. So it's just like a really interesting concept where you talk about bloat, which is in the top 5 issues of a dog killer, right? Yeah. And then you talk about cancer, which is in the top 5. But they never talk about that shit. They only talk about DCM, right?
Well, isn't that the other thing about
crazy
bloat and cancer? It's never blamed on a kibble. Never. It's always something else.
Yeah.
Oh, they ate something in the yard, or they're around bacterial things in your house, but it's never the kibble. And it's never a high big name kibble. Never. Yeah. It's always some small little kibble that actually, those people that make that probably actually do care, but they're in the kibble business, It's never big corporate, never. Like our food. I mean, come on. Are you going to do better on free range or, something out of a cereal box?
Ours is all chiropractically adjusted, free range, all of our protein.
Well, all right.
Chickens.
So we got
chickens.
He's stretching everything.
Yeah. We got a few more questions. We'll knock these out and then we'll call it a night. But this is from the same person. There's 2 questions in one. How do you prevent Easty, Westy, and feet, and what helps to get rid of it, right? Because we talked about that earlier, and you said elevated dog bowls do not help that shit. It's all a myth. And then second part of the question is what could be a simple recipe for raw feed?
Commercial.
So how do you – if a dog has Easty, Westy, is it preventable?
The second question first.
Simple raw feeding recipe.
COMMCIAL available. Commercially available.
Chemical porn? Oh, gotcha. I was trying to spell it out.
Any commercially available raw food is going to be the cheapest way to make it. And here's the thing. Dog food has a 0 salmonella and E. coli tolerance. 0. Okay? Kibble.
Dog food
raw
as
food,
in kibble.
Commercially available, has 0 salmonella and E. coli. They can't sell it if it has any. If you make your own raw food, that means you're going to the grocery store, buying human grade protein, which all comes with a warning label on it that says, do not eat this unless you cook it, because we know there's a good chance it has salmonella and E. coli in it. 27%.
Yeah.
Because we shot it in there before we put it on the market.
Yeah, because
27% of that stuff in any given grocery store will test positive.
Really?
Yeah. Well, because for humans and a dog's stomach is completely different than a human, so they're not going to put the warning on for fucking dogs.
It has to be 0 salmonella and E. coli, and it's not because the dogs are going to get sick; it's because the people get sick after feeding their dogs. The last blue buffalo.
Yeah. And you're right. Pre-made, like there's a lot of pre-mades around here. You can get it for like $2 a pound, which is kind of ridiculous.
But make sure, I like dog food that crosses state borders because it has to be tested. I'm not going to say that there's dog food that doesn't cross state borders, but Purina has 48 plants in the continental United States.
And what are you trying to say there?
Less borders to cross.
Yes.
There's
I'm just trying to put it out there for everybody else. I know what he's trying to say.
48 Purina factories.
And like I was saying earlier, Purina would never cause cancer, bloat, or left. Yeah, nothing. Ever.
So, and then Easty Westy, anytime
Never.
you have a condition that happens in a lot of dogs that it's a muscle asymmetry.
Let me ask you this before you go. Is it genetically passed on, or is it a condition that is usually done by the owner?
Environmentally induced,
created by the owner,
which means everything is involved.
environmentally induced.
It could genetics.
Okay.
You can take a genetically great dog and turn it into a piece of crap. Doesn't matter. You can take a.
Well, I just wonder because certain breeds have super tight feet, right? Like you see some Dobermans, they have like super clean, tight feet. You see dogs that are just constantly Westie?
So there's easier to balance. It's easier to balance
small
the
heads
that bring the leg in with the muscles that bring the leg out. If you have short legs,
so phenotype,
it's harder to make those and the legs on a Doberman go straight up and down, where the legs on most bullies go, they're not straight up and down, they're kind of like this.
Right.
And
that totally makes sense because, exactly, that guy Carlos from Mexico or Colombia, where he's from, his dogs have tight feet, but their angulation, their hips, what do you call it?
they go straight.
They're structurally sound.
They're structurally sound. Yeah. The assembly, their rear end assembly is really nice. It's usually lower than the
and then that's the thing too. Like, it's a big thing in the bully community that people don't realize is the length of the front arm. So like, I seen somebody making a post the other day and was saying that it's something that a lot of breeders need to learn about and look into, because when like what Dr.O said, when you create a dog with such a short front that's not generally supposed to have it, it's going to create issues, especially when his head is as big as it is, his shoulders is as massive as they are. It's just like a big bodybuilder, and he just can't function right.
And that's the problem. So you have to work, and you have to do some special exercises on some of these dogs. So you have to, and by special exercises, a dog that control walk, and by control walk, I mean at the end of a leash, has to use every muscle. And so controlled walking is actually harder than running.
So when I'm doing this controlled beach run, because we run a certain pace, my two dogs, because I don't want them going all over the place because there's rabbits and coyotes and everything out there early in the morning, that's a controlled jog. So they're doing pretty good then.
Right.
They're on an 8-foot leash actually tied together, and then the big guy is tied to me.
Right. So,
yeah.
And you're making them, you're keeping them in a 4-beat gait. You're keeping them in a 4-beat gait, not a canter, not a lope. So they have to trot.
Well, explain that. What's a canter versus a lope versus a 4-beat
trot, where all 4 legs work the same way.
And
if you're
okay,
yes, and that's good. If you get into a canter or a lope, it's more of a 3-beat gait, and the back end so the legs work differently. Each side works differently. So you have a lead leg, and that leg on the back, the lead leg in the back works harder than the other one, and the off lead leg in the front works harder than.
And you know what? I see that because in the beginning, we just get out of the truck. It's 4 a.m. That first mile is just ridiculous. They're wanting to go to the bathroom. They're here and there, and we actually do a down and back real quick just to kind of get that out of the way. And then the next 5 miles, they're just cruising, and it's a graceful, Yeah. I don't know that.
When Zach used to talk to me about canterlope, I always thought he was talking about a melon.
Well, I was going to tell you, if you didn't know, the lope is located at the bottom of your ear.
That's where I was going. We're just running until we fall over.
I was like, I love canterlope. Canterlope is really good if you think about it.
And that's why, like, when we start to rehab these dogs that have cruciate tears, that have something going on, and they've had surgery, and they say, oh, yeah, we just let him run around in the backyard. No, they're not using that leg. A slow walk is the hardest thing for an animal to do that has one leg that's not working effectively. And so the first thing we do is just slow walk.
It makes sense. I mean, screw up your ankle and then go for a regular walk. It sucks.
But it's
Yeah.
easier to run because you can limp easier
Yeah,
when
true.
you run than when you walk.
Yeah.
You can take pressure off of it
Yeah,
differently.
You
Yeah.
kind of
Boom,
hop.
boom.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Kind of a hop.
I'm going
and,
to have to send you some videos of our runs then. Be interesting.
Okay.
It's easy to do because they're running
Yeah.
right next to me, you know? Yeah.
all right.
All right. I know we got a
I'm
couple,
ready,
one more
Steve.
question. You want to do one more question before we call it a night, Zach? Let's see here.
Mm-mm-mm.
All right. What is he? All right. So we'll do a double question with MJ Bullies. Do you recommend split feeding raw or full day serving once a day? And what is usually the cause of problems
Life
with the Atlas?
is the cause of problems with the Atlas. So, I mean, it because it's the counterbalance for the body. And remember those three things: thoughts, trauma, toxins. They're going to affect the Atlas first. So thoughts, trauma, toxins are going to
Yeah.
go there. And even if you have a
Well, how do you avoid that then, Doc? Like, how do you prevent that?
no,
You just give your dog an
you
easy
keep
life?
them in
Like,
condition,
what do you
and
do?
so everything is important. And then you get them checked, and you keep them chiropractically adjusted. How often that is for each dog, like I
Okay.
don't know. If you find your dog's hip bones, you got a dog
Yeah.
handy? Anybody have a dog handy?
Mine
What do you,
are all
mine are
laid
right
down.
outside the door. What are you
It's
trying
good
to
for
do?
I
life.
was just going to have you go find their hip bones and look at your thumbs. So you put one thumb on the right hip, one thumb on the left hip. Your thumb should be, let me see if I can do this. I had to move so I could
Well,
plug
with
in.
the phone, I'm never going to pull that off.
No, but your thumbs need to be here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they're here, that
Yeah.
means you're
Okay,
bilateral
I will try it, but to show you guys, they're out there at berserk right now. I haven't fed them yet. So
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have to be even, and so we look at that. And if they're even, then
So-
your atlas is okay. Everything's all right.
right on the hip bones and just look at your thumbs.
Yeah. They should be straight across.
Okay.
That'd be interesting, Jason, if you did that and then, like, don't say anything and take it to your chiropractor, then redo it and see if
To
they
do
all
that too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah, see if you're getting your money's worth then, huh?
But
Be
Like
like, all right, then
when
that
it's
shit
Doc.
done, I
changed.
start doing this, and
I-
then that dude will be like, "Oh shit, he's doing."
Who you talk to?
Hold on.
as far
This shit's
as
way
split
off.
feeding,
Yes,
feeding once a day,
It's a thing.
I'm once
feeding
a day.
4
tonight.
times a day.
We just got off the field. We did a little track. I did a bunch of 2-ball. We're about to eat, and then while I eat, they eat, and then I let them back out one more time because I hate being in the crate all night with a full stomach.
I firmly believe
Yeah.
that you need to feed your dog however it works for you. Because, if I told you, Jason, that you had to feed 3 times a day,
Whew.
okay?
I'd be coming home for lunch.
Yep. But I live here, and our dogs think that when we eat 3 meals a day, they should get to eat 3 meals a day. So feeding once a day
Yeah.
would not work for me. And when we have students here,
Yeah.
they spend the first 2 days trying to talk students into feeding them off the table. It doesn't work. I mean, we flat out tell the students don't be feeding our dogs off the table, and they know better. But you're new, and we're
But
gonna,
they
we're
still
gonna
do it.
try. Just maybe.
The other-
Just maybe.
The other
Got
thing
to.
I looked at it, even though they do that activity in the morning, is it's kind of like a human. Like mine are in crates during the day. I don't want them to sit, and I'm not here. I don't want them to sit there all day on a full stomach. Imagine me sitting in my bedroom on a full
Well, Zach
stomach,
always,
not being
like-
able to get out. I mean,
Zach does crinkle crafts like 3 to 4 times a day, and every time he does crinkle crafts, he actually feeds his dogs. Same thing.
It's stupid, bro.
I'm
My
just saying.
cords,
You love
That's
crinkle
okay.
crafts.
Whatever
Yeah,
works for you
yeah.
is
I'll
what
get you
your
some
dog
stuff.
feeding
Yeah,
schedule
yeah.
should be.
Yeah.
And as long as you don't change it every 3rd day, you'll be okay. I mean, if I'm feeding
Yeah.
3 times a day, but then, I'd say, oh, I'm going to have Josh dog sit my dogs for a week, right? So now, about the time they get used to once a
Yeah.
day feeding, I get there, and now we're going back to 3 times a day. And that's not going to work. But
And that's like the opposite when my mom gets a hold of my dogs when I go do something, take a trip wherever. Yeah, right when I get them, I'm like, oh, we're going to go on a 10-mile run. She's like, why? I'm like, because you fed them 10 times yesterday, probably. Gave them things off your table, and then you went, oh, he's crying. Let me give him something else. They're telling yeah.
Dogs are smart.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mine wouldn't ask me for nothing.
Yeah.
If my mom lived around here and walked in the door right now, they'd be standing right next to her.
Yep.
Me, they walk right on by. Like, no, he's going to make me go find the ball for fucking 10 miles.
Unless a dog has an autoimmune disease or anything issue like that, they're usually going to eat things that their body craves. Like I had a client come in today, and they're like, my dog, like they were telling me about their diet. They don't feed any dog food. They feed they'll feed egg, chicken, like these strips from Costco. But they're like, my dogs will eat the shit out of like Brussels sprouts and sweet potato and all these. And I was like, well, yeah, it's craving it. Like the dog is actually craving the nutrients, and dogs usually won't. And they're like, sometimes it'll just leave the chicken strips. They're really finicky eaters, and I'm like, well, because they're not needing any more protein.
No.
They're like, I need more vitamins and minerals.
Here we go again. In a chicken strip, how much protein is still in there that's available to the dog?
I don't know. I'd have to look at the bag, but the Costco ones, I don't know exactly.
Because you cooked
them. Uncooked.
You cooked them, right? She cooked them. So
yeah. Well, no. They're like some dehydrated strip that they get a giant bag from Costco's. Yeah. So it's just a dehydrated strip. But she's like, they're like, well, he was like, I leave like 4 or 5 around, and my dog will eat it. There's no competition, so it's like it was actually a pocket beagle, which I'd never seen one of those, and they brought it in because they're like, we had to find a vest that actually fit the dog, and they're like, he just leaves it. But then when I put Brussels sprouts or sweet potatoes or any type of vegetables that I put down, the dog goes crazy and won't leave any food there. And I'm like, well, why is it leaving the protein versus leaving the other, vegetables? It's not because the dog's fucking vegan. It's because the dog's probably lacking nutrients of, certain vitamins and minerals that those, like the
chicken strips.
Fiber.
Oh, yeah, and it's like back to this. You give them 8 cans of this, and they'll still eat a raw diet, because they didn't get anything.
Yeah.
78.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not thirsty. So if you want to give your dog, again, you're talking about minimums and maximums when it comes to the AFCO feeding analysis. So there's a gas station. I'm actually probably going to do a video tomorrow. I'm going to go down there. It's a gas station has this bag of dog food. It literally has no meat in it. It's all vegetables, but it passes AFCO's minimum quantity standards of protein and crude fat, right? It's just interesting.
It's amazing what those dog foods pass.
Huh? Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll call it a night, man. Just want to go ahead and take a few minutes to just plug in this organization. If you guys are tuning in, if you guys want to donate to Cinnamon Angels Fly Away, it is a organization that you can donate to for children who have cinnamon allergies. And so you guys are interested in doing that, please, go ahead and go to cinnamonangelsflyaway.com.
All right. You heard it here first.
You guys are taking me serious?
Yeah, somebody's going to. They're Googling it right now. But yeah, we appreciate everybody stopping in. Of course, Dr. O, as always, we appreciate you coming in.
Jason, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Man. Hey, if you guys are looking, hey, Doc, if you really want to, revisit your marriage and want to get a diamond, get a Rollie or a Rolex or iced out bezel on your Rolex and or a diamond ring, hit up Jason. He owns a jewelry company out there in Florida.
Take the
So
shot.
if you're around Florida,
he
got you.
Florida.
I'm in Sarasota.
Oh, okay.
And Dr. Romano's right down the street from me, actually.
And he can get you prescription Gucci glasses that you
bling
have
out
on
the
right
sides.
now. You're up those too.
All right.
We gotta get you up to date, Doc. We gotta
get
young
you hip.
dog owners. French bulldogs are the most popular breed right now, so we gotta.
All right.
Don't make me take the real bully collar.
All right.
All right, guys. So thank you for tuning in, man. We appreciate all the love and support. And we are moving into a new platform in the next week or so. So make sure you guys tune in there. We got to get Doc up to date before the next episode on that. And we'll be streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. So it's going to bring out the quality of our content a lot better. And, right now we're getting about 1,000 downloads a week. And so we're moving up beyond the top 50. And so we can appreciate your support. And as always, Team X
Thanks for having me
strong.
on, guys. I appreciate it out of nowhere. That was fun.